Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Math with Dr. War. Today we're going to evaluate a function given a graph. Let's begin. So I'm given a graph to the right. It looks like a U. Let's label it. Let's call it f of x. And from our graph, we need to evaluate the following. We have to find f of 0, f of 3, and f of -2. But before we begin to evaluate, let's label our coordinate grid. Now remember, your vertical line here represents your y-axis, and the horizontal line represents your x-axis. Also look at your intervals. Don't assume that every little square is a 1, so you can't always assume that, so we must check. So notice I'm starting from 0 and going to 2 on the x-axis, which means that in the middle here is 1, which means over here this will be 3, 4, 5. Let's do the same for the y-axis. Here's 0, this is 2, which means in the middle is 1, this will be 3, 4, this will be 5, and so forth. Let's evaluate. So we have to find f of 0. Remember, 0 is your input value, and it's also your x value. So we're going to go to our coordinate grid, and we're going to find 0 on the x-axis. Now, 0 on the x-axis is right here. But that's not giving us any information. In order to evaluate, we must get our values from the graph. So I know this is x as 0. So to find the y value, because we know x, we're going to have to go up and touch our graph. I'm touching my graph right here, and I have to find out what is this value for y. Now notice I'm actually on the y-axis, so this value here would be 4, because if this is 5, this value is 4. So when x is 0, y is 4. Remember, when you touch the graph, you're touching at a point. And remember, a point has an x value and a y value. Let's find f of 3. Remember, the 3 is your x value. So let's go to the x-axis and find 3. It's right here. We must get our information from the graph. So we're going to touch our graph. And to do that, I have to go up. I'm touching my graph right here. I must find the corresponding y value. So I'm going to go towards the y-axis, which is right here. What is this value? Notice I'm between 12 and 14. Therefore, this value is 13. So when x is 3, y has a value of 13. Suppose I want to find f of -2. Let's change my pen color. Maybe we can do red. Remember, the -2 represents your x value. So starting at the origin, -2 would be over here. I need to find the corresponding y value from the graph. So I'm going to go up and touch my graph right here. I have to find a corresponding y value, so I'm going to go towards the y-axis. Notice that value is 8. So when x is -2, y is 8. Remember, when you touch your graph, you're touching at a point. And if you had to read that point, if you start at the origin here, you would say, okay, went to the left 2 units, 1, 2. That's -2. That was given to us. And we have to find the corresponding y. So I'm going up, which will be positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my answer is y is 8. Let's look at some task-like questions. The graph of f of x is shown below. So here's our graph. I have to find the value of f of -3. -3 is my input value. So I have to find -3 on the x-axis. This is the origin. So -3 would be to the left. 1, 2, 3. I need to touch the graph, so I have to go up. I'm touching the graph right here. I have to find the corresponding y value, which is over here. So if I go back to the origin and I start to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when x is -3, y is 6. Refer to the graph below. Here's my graph. I have to find f of 2. I know that 2 represents my x value. I go to the x-axis and I find 2, which is here. I go up and I touch my graph. Now I'm touching my graph at 2 places. This is called a piecewise function. So I'm either touching here. If I go across, that y value is 2. If I go here, that y value is 3. So you're like, is my answer 2 or is it 3? Remember from inequalities, when the circle is open, you cannot use the value. But if the circle is closed, you can use the value. Therefore, f of 2 has a value of 3. So C is the answer. I hope this lesson was helpful in evaluating a function given a graph. These problems are not that difficult. You're not computing anything. All of your information comes from the graph. Remember, what's inside the parentheses of your function represents your x value. Go to your x-axis, find that value, and then you're either going up or down to touch your graph and find the corresponding y value. Good luck in your Tasc examination. And remember, if you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share. Have a great day.